Welcome to the Tyre Recycling podcast. We've now reached episode 15 in our series, and we've got a lot more to come in terms of news from the tyre recycling sector. If you don't know me, I'm Richard Wilson, and Ewan Scott, the editor for Tyre Rubber Recycling, is alongside to take us through every step of the way. Ewan, how are you? And could you tell us who we're talking to today?
Today I was talking to Gary Moore, UK Sales Director for Untha Limited. Gary's going to tell us about the new single shaft shredder that Untha are bringing to the market.
Fantastic. Well, Untha, they're a well-known player in the equipment sector in terms of supplying shredding equipment to the recycling and waste industries. But the tyre sector is something of a return, which always brings up questions. What are you looking to find out with regards to that?
It would be interesting, as I say, to see why they've decided, after having had a deliberate absence from the market, why they've come back and what they have to offer. It is, after all, a pretty saturated market. There are more shredder manufacturers out there than you can shake a stick at, especially with the Indians and the Chinese coming into the market now. So it'd be interesting to see what they've got to offer.
Okay, well, that sounds great. The interview with Gary Moore, the UK Sales Director at Untha, is coming up for you right now.
Gary, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Untha and where they are in the market just now?
Yes, absolutely, Ewan. Many thanks for inviting me on the podcast today. Very much appreciated. So a little bit of a potted history of where, Untha was formed and how we came to get to this stage. Pretty much all started way back in 1970 with a request from a supermarket chain. They pretty much wanted to shred their wooden packing cases and the cardboard boxes. And Anton Untha Wertzenegger, who was the Untha founder and the shredding technology pioneer at that time, actually responded by designing and constructing the world's first four-shaft cutting system with a perforated screen, and then was granted the first patent for this technology worldwide. In 1986, the brand name Untha Shredders was established. And at the same time, construction began on our facility, a new location in Kukl, just on the outskirts of Salzburg in Austria. And then this continued in 2006 for further expansion, and the building was completed later that year, which pretty much housed the entire sales operation now. Simultaneously, the brand name of Untha Shredding Technology was established and legally protected globally. 2008 saw Anton Kitzberger succeed Anton as our CEO, and Alois continues to head the management team and obviously plans our strategic growth pattern to this day. During the next several years after Alois came on board, we pretty much then embarked upon rolling out the Untha product, and we then formed our wholly owned subsidiaries pretty much, through a global base. We branched out into the USA, UK, Poland, Germany, and Spain. These are now wholly owned subsidiaries of the Untha Group. And we have also, during that period of time, we rolled out a list of distributors in such countries as Austria, Southern Asia, Korea, and these other markets. In 2010, the Untha brand was repositioned, and we sort of pretty much rebranded our core values, and the core value was based upon reliability. The Untha Academy was established at the same time, and obviously the well-known four-shaft shredder brand, the RS30 and 40, were remodeled and then relaunched. We had further building expansion at that time, and obviously the company continues pretty much as it is today. During that year, we also picked up the Salzburg Economic Award for Best Innovation. 2016 pretty much sees the launch of our flagship range of equipment, the XR series of low-speed iTorque shredders. And pretty much here we are, 2020 today, now celebrating 50 years of being in business.
Okay, thank you very much for that breakdown on the history of Untha. Now, we're talking today particularly about the XR3000C, which is, if I might say this, a return of Untha to the tyre recycling sector. Because, to be fair, you've been absent from the sector for the past few years. So what brings you back into the market?
Yeah, we pretty much, it's a great question, Ewan, because pretty much, if we rewind probably maybe 10, maybe even 15 years now, we knew that the marketplace then was pretty much 2 shaft shredders, 4 shaft shredders were coming along for processing tyres. And pretty much, for the next 15 years, it continued being low-speed iTorque technology, but with contra-rotating sheared shredding equipment. Well, one of the issues, or the major issue that we have with this type of technology is that the cutter changes are incredibly expensive. Maintenance tends to be expensive on these machines, and it takes a lot to strip the machines down, and they're typically out of production, for a long period of time. And the bigger the customer, the more that they want to process, the bigger the machines, the more non-production time that they have. So, fast forward pretty much to 2016, we thought to ourselves that, we've got a product here in the XR series of machine that is a single rotor design, 3 metre cutting chamber or 3 metre rotor, 1 metre diameter, plenty of power there to do the job. So initially we pretty much stayed away from the tyre market, and then spent the next few years making sure that the machine was truly tested in the in those open market conditions, and making sure that we could pretty much do what the machine says on the tin. So coming fast forward to today, we now have 2 machines in the XR range. One is the XR3000C HT, and the other machine is the XR3000XC. Now, the XR3000C HT is typically a primary shredder that will produce a rough shred material, but will also produce in a single pass a 50mm or 2-inch TDF chip. The XR3000XC machine is a secondary shredding machine. This machine has got 6 knife rows, much smaller screen sizing. So what we're doing with this machine, taking the pre-shred, taking that product down to between an 8 and 15mm product sizing. Now, when we start to look at the USBs, what really made us get back into the tyre market is, after trialing these machines on different sites, doing different shred test demonstrations with a range of tyres, we just found that customers, we were very fortunate, customers wanted to buy. So essentially we then pretty much fine-tuned the equipment, and today we've got on both of these machines, we've got some very, very unique selling points. We've got the ability to process a wide range of tyres in a single machine, such as car, truck, and that includes super singles, agricultural tyres and OTRs. We have the single pass processing capability for TDF. So these machines are fitted with an integral screen. So we need no additional screening or recirculation. So again, less equipment is required. We run these machines on energy efficient synchronous eco drive units. So pretty much with these synchronous drive units, we are using 40% less power. So, and that would be typically over a DOL or a Star Delta asynchronous drive system. So, massive savings here for the customer in terms of ongoing, ongoing productivity. We've got very low cost of wear parts, especially the cutters. an extreme, you know, the ease of maintenance on these machines really does make it a game changer. For all those guys out there that you know, I'm not decrying contra-rotating shear equipment. It's done a fantastic job up until now. But when you look at the maintenance teams that would spend several days stripping, rebuilding these machines, you know, we can turn our cutters, you know, they are indexable 4 times. We can pretty much change on a machine that's processing a TDF product on all the tyres that we spoke about earlier. They can do a cutter change without stripping the machine down in between 2 and 3 hours. So it's almost unheard of in this industry that, you know, you can, the uptime that we're actually, you know, in building into this equipment, you know, is pretty substantial. And again, we have, you know, oversized feed hoppers and cutting chambers to take those, you know, the very diverse nature of some of the tyre sizes. So that's pretty much the USPs, guys.
Right. So you have a piece of equipment there that is capable of doing a primary shred for TDF, and if somebody wants finer material for perhaps a pyrolysis feedstock, you can do that too with the second machine. And cost is very important in these times. The tyre recycling sector is not the most profitable market, and anybody who can come along and give added margin or a cut cost is sure to have a benefit. So do you see that as a real bonus point for Untha?
Absolutely, Ewan, and I think it's that very question and those points that you've mentioned that actually makes this equipment, you know, the game changer. Because, you know, when we look at, you know, typically, and, you know, and I've worked for another major shredding company, you know, during my career, where we manufactured dual shaft and 4 shaft equipment. And, you know, the cost of replacing a cutter set on a fairly large tyre shredder that would be processing truck tyres and super singles, you know, you could see a cost there, you know, probably in the 60 to 70,000 pound mark. And then you've got to take out the time that the equipment is out of production. Could be 3 or 4 days. Now, when you look at, you know, when we started to evaluate why do we want to get back into the tyre business, it's for that nature that, you know, we can save the customer the cost on their energy usage. So we're driving that cost down substantially. But also the cost of maintenance really now starts to enable these customers to look at true bottom line profitability. Because, you know, a cutter set for our machine, we're pretty much using on our iTalk machine that is going to produce a 50 mil TDF in a single pass. We need 42 cutters. Each cutter is around £50 sterling. So it gives, you know, what you've got there is purely for your wear parts. You're probably looking for the cutter set around about 4K, the statics around about 2K. The whole thing could be, including the labour, could be well under 10K. So the savings financially are absolutely immense.
Okay. Now, the on maintenance and support, Untha provides a customer support and after-sales service throughout the European market.
Absolutely. One of our, I think one of the things that we very early on knew that we had to achieve was, you know, in growing a very strong brand awareness and growing a very successful sales team, we need the backup of a very strong after-sales team. We pretty much in all across Europe, UK alone, we have 5 engineers that cover the country. Pretty much all of these guys have got their own, they've just had new Mercedes vans kitted out, large vans. These travel all these guys travel, you know, throughout the length and breadth of the UK. We have probably double that engineers available within Central Europe. And as we move into the USA, we have probably 4 engineers over there doing exactly the same job. And again, the same in Australasia. So, when we start to look at our global positioning, we like to say that, we're providing, global support on a local basis.
And does your technical support, do you have a digital technical support team? So the equipment automatically feeds back to Austria that there's a problem, this is what it is. Can your technicians in Austria view the machine remotely?
Absolutely. We have, it's a great point, Ewan. Pleased that you brought that up, because we've actually now, on every machine that comes out the factory, every XR machine, we've actually introduced a system called Genius. Now, this is actually what we're calling the shredder's brain. So this is an analytical monitoring system that we can dial in, see exactly what the shredder's doing. Whether we've got, increasing oil temperatures due to cutter wear, whether the machine's working a little bit harder, whether we've got a poor power supply, whether the machine's being overloaded, whether we've got, too many unshreddables going in the product. So we can give a complete, analytical insight into what's going on. And if we have to make program changes to optimize the running. So let's, for instance, say a customer has changed from running a range of car passenger tires and now wants to do, he's picked up a project where he's got 2 months of super single shredding to do. So what we will do is we will, in the program, we will one button press, there will be a pre-programmed setting that the guys can dial in, alter the setting, and again, you're on super singles rather than car tires. But not only that, one of the really important things is that the client and the customer has got all of this information at their fingertips as well. So whether they want to see condition monitoring from their laptop or their smartphone, they can access it directly and see what that machine's doing. You can determine how many kilowatt or horsepower the machine's using. You can check the rotor speed. You can check, basically pretty much all of the functions of what's happening with that equipment. Very, very user-friendly.
It sounds like you've got a winner there. It's from our point of view, it's good to see Untha, another manufacturer, back in the tyre sector.
And we're back from our interview with Gary Moore from Untha. Ewan, Gary certainly knows his stuff, and his background in the shredding sector has made for great viewing there. What struck you from the conversation?
I think the fact that Untha have come back in with a single shaft shredder for tyre application, that is counter the market trend, because we have seen double shaft and 4 shaft shredders coming into the market to process tyres to address the issues that were initially tied up with single shaft shredders. Interestingly, one of the first tyre shredding operations I ever visited used a single shaft shredder, not from Untha, but it was a single shaft shredder nonetheless. And they were trying to shred truck tyres. And the big issue they had was that the steel bands and the steel wires in the truck tyres wound themselves round the single shaft. It'd be interesting to see how Untha have addressed that issue and taken the single shaft shredder forward. It's also interesting to see that they have made this a mobile operation. So it's applicable in multiple sites. You can move it around different locations. You can move it around your site rather than shifting tons of tyres to the shredder. You can take the shredder to the tyres, which can be easier. So it'd be interesting to see how the market reacts to Untha's new shredder.
For sure. I mean, we touched upon it in the introduction and in the interview that this is, something somewhat new territory, or a turn, or however we would like to term it. And you've also touched there upon some of the challenges that will face them, that are facing them with this return. Do you feel they can make a success of this move? And if so, what other challenges are they going to have to counteract?
Oh, for sure, Untha will be able to deal with the issues. They're an experienced company. They understand the equipment. They know how to make it work. So I'm quite sure that they will have addressed the issues that are likely to arise with a new shredder. I think perhaps the biggest challenge is taking a product that is different to a market that has come to accept 2 and 4 shaft shredders. They do have some advantages, lower running costs, and far easier to maintain. They open the cover and they can access the drum to change the blades. The blades can be used 4 times. On a multi-shaft shredder, it tends to be a case of having to remove the cassette with the shafts and the blades, and dismantle the whole thing, put it back together. When I say a cassette, you might have imagined something lightweight, but obviously in the tyre industry, it's not lightweight. It's far from it. It requires heavy equipment just to move it. So a single shaft shredder will have some advantages. The biggest issue they're going to have is competing in the market with so many other players.
Okay, well, plenty of food for thought there, and as you say, that's one of the big things for me as well. The competition will be, interesting to see how they deal with that and how they provide, their value proposition over their competitors. But we'll be keeping a close eye on that to see how that develops. Thanks for your time, Ewan, and thank you for interviewing Gary. We'll be back very shortly with episode 16. Until then, stay safe.